How's it going, guys? Hope it's been a great week. So I'm back today with another video, guys. This is kind of a special one-off video. So about 4 months ago, I did a Mass Effect related video where I asked you guys, just for your input really, to help me choose a Shepard to play when playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which as we all know, is coming out on the 14th of May. A lot of people commented and sort of gave me their impressions on my Shepards and helped me to pick, and I've decided I'm going to choose my Canon Shepard, which is my Kate Shepard, soldier class, femme shep that romances Liara. And thank you so much for everybody who took the time to sort of watch that video on comment. I was really surprised by just the support for that video. There was like over 2,000 views, lots of comments, about 56 comments. It was kind of awesome. But one of the things I really enjoyed doing on that video was just reading your comments, and I asked a lot of you to share what Shepard you are going to play in the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And I had so much fun reading through about everybody's individual Shepards, and it was really cool because you all very clearly had your own kind of headcanon, your own story that you created for your Shepard and his or her choices and background and relationships, and I really enjoyed it. It was really great to sort of read, and it was really fun. What I decided to do was just to kind of collate and count all of those choices, because I was really interested to actually see what some of the most popular choices were for people when it comes to choosing their Commander Shepard. And some of the results that came from that, some of the things I discovered were actually really, really interesting. And so this video is really that. It's just sort of sharing what came out of that and also what sort of trends it revealed. So these are some of the fan favorite choices for Commander Shepard. And we're going to obviously kick off by talking about Shepard's gender, because one of the biggest choices you will ever make is to decide between playing as male Shep or female Shep. Obviously, male Shep is voice acted by Mark Meer and female Shep by Jennifer Hale. It has a pretty massive impact on the story, not only in terms of your romanceable options, but just in terms of your experience with the actual trilogy. It is very different depending on if you're male or female, and how Jennifer Hale and Mark Meer kind of deliver that. Both their performances are fantastic, but they do definitely bring a certain nuance to their own performances, which is really interesting. For me personally, I obviously, as you know, chose Femme Shep, but actually when we look at it, and the votes were actually pretty even down the middle. 48% of people actually play as Femme Shep, and 52% of you play as male Shep. So the majority of people do tend to pick male Shepard, but I was actually surprised by just actually how close that number was. I wasn't expecting it to be so nearly 50-50. So that's really surprising for me. I'm not overly surprised that male Shepard kind of pipped female Shepard, simply because I feel that male Shep in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2 was advertised a lot more. He was in a lot more of the publicity and the marketing for the games. So maybe a lot of people considered male Shep as kind of the canon choice. Obviously, the look of male Shepard as well was better, I would say, because there was a very definite default male Shepard that had been modeled after kind of a male model, whereas Femme Shep didn't really have that. So I feel that maybe that is why most people played as male Shepard. For me personally, I picked female Shepard simply because while I love Mark Meer and I think he's a lovely guy and an amazing voice actor, I actually resonated a lot more with Jennifer Hale's performance, and I thought her performance as, you know, a female Commander Shepard was utterly outstanding, and I feel that the story might not have had as much impact upon me had it not been for her amazing performance, and that's why I went with female Shepard. I will say, if you've only ever played as male Shepard, definitely consider picking up and checking out female Shepard for the Legendary Edition. I don't think you will be disappointed. But that, for me, gender was one of the most interesting ones to look at, and it's kind of awesome to see that it's pretty split down the middle, which is great, and there seems to be a lot of love for female Shepard out there, which is really awesome. Let's obviously talk about the morality choices, because obviously throughout the game you can choose, you know, to respond to things either as Paragon or renegade, or you can mix it up. So you can be a renegon where you're mostly renegade with a little bit of paragon, or a paragade where you're mostly paragon with a little bit of renegade. The least popular obviously was paragade with 5%. Then you had renegon with 16%. Then renegade with 32% of the votes. But actually the most common morality choice for most people is paragon with 47%. Not massively surprised by that, because it does make sense, you know, as an N7 leading this team and leading it by example. Paragon for me just feels like the right choice, especially if you pick certain backgrounds. And sometimes while the renegade interrupts can be really, really funny, and there are some hilarious renegade interrupts, sometimes, particularly when you're talking to certain companions, it can kind of come across a little bit douchebaggy. So there were some moments where just renegade didn't feel like the right choice. But for me personally, I went with the majority, and I also played as a paragon. Let's talk about the class that you play as, because this obviously is a massive choice in the Mass Effect trilogy, because it will very much impact upon the combat and the gameplay and your experience with that gameplay. There are obviously many different classes that you can choose as. The least popular was engineer with 6%. Then we had adept, sentinel and infiltrator that tied at 12%. The second most popular was the soldier class, which is kind of like your all-rounder. It's a good beginner class, I would say, but surprisingly for me, the most popular class to be played in the trilogy was Vanguard with 35%. I was actually really surprised by that, and I can kind of get why. Vanguard is really fun to play, particularly later on in Mass Effect 3, with that sort of zoom ability to dash towards enemies, exploding their shields, and then you can combine that with shotguns and some really powerful moves and biotic moves. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of kind of hit and run sort of tactics. So yeah, it's the Vanguard. I can definitely see why a lot of people chose that class, because it's a blast to play. It's a lot of fun to play. I did experiment with Vanguard a little bit in the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, and did actually quite enjoy that class. So I can see why people would have chose that. Let's talk about the backgrounds then, in terms of picking your origin story. So the least popular was colonist. That was with 17%. Then came spacer with 33%. But the most common background that people chose was earthborn, and specifically earthborn war hero. So 50% of you chose earthborn as your origin, and 55% of you chose war hero. Least popular was soul survivor at 18%, and then ruthless, surprisingly, at 27%. I myself went with war hero most definitely, but I actually chose spacer for my own class. So I'm kind of surprised that a lot of people chose earthborn. I like the idea of being a spacer and traveling in the stars and that kind of thing, but hey, you know, that's really interesting just to see what people voted for. Let's obviously talk about the romanceable options, because this was very interesting for me as well. I've only picked on the ones that were mentioned, that have been voted on. So in Mass Effect 1, obviously the main romance options are Liara, Ashley, Kaidan, and of course you can choose not to romance anyone. Ashley actually got 0% of the vote. She didn't get anybody voting for her. I guess people did not like the space racist, possibly, and Ashley is a little bit hard to swallow initially in Mass Effect 1. She does get a little bit better, and you do kind of get to know a bit about her background and sort of warm up to her, particularly in Mass Effect 3. But came in with 13% of the vote. Actually, 31% of you didn't romance anybody in Mass Effect 1, which was really interesting. And 56% of you romanced Liara. So you are fellow Liara romancers like myself. I really enjoyed Liara's romance across the trilogy. Obviously, she's quite closely connected to the story as well, with her mother, Benezia. So yeah, I can see why a lot of people went for Liara as a romanceable option. So let's talk about the romance options in Mass Effect 2. So in last place was Thane with 8% of the vote. Then second to last, there were 3 joint characters. That was Jack, Liara and Garrus, all tied at 12% of the vote. I think maybe Liara was classed as a romance option for many people in Mass Effect 2, simply because of the Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC, and you do actually get to kind of rekindle your romance with Liara a little bit in Mass Effect 2, which was really awesome. Then in second place was Tali with 25% of the vote. I think a lot of that has to do with Tali's loyalty mission, which was just utterly incredible. Being able to see the flotilla, being able to learn more about Tali's father and her race was just really cool. And so yeah, I can see why this would make many people kind of fall in love with Tali as a character. But in first place in Mass Effect 2 for romance options was Miranda with 31% of the vote, which was really interesting. I guess it makes sense if a lot of you chose to play as male Shepard, and I think Miranda's story and her background is really interesting. The idea of her being sort of genetically engineered to be perfect, and we do get, you know, really good character development for Miranda as she starts to realize that maybe Cerberus and the Elusive Man are not exactly what they appear to be. So yeah, I really did like Miranda's character development, and I actually started to really like her towards the end of Mass Effect 2, so I can see why many people would have been interested, you know, in pursuing that romance. And then of course we have the romance options in Mass Effect 3. In last place joint was Kaidan and Garrus, both with 12% of the vote. Then we had Miranda with 19% of the vote, so it was really cool to see that many of you stayed loyal to Miranda in Mass Effect 3, even though personally I feel like she got a little bit hard done by. Maybe not as bad as those people that romanced Jacob, but Miranda didn't feature as much in Mass Effect 3, so I'm really interested to see that so many people chose to stay loyal to Miranda. Then Tali came in at second place with 25% of your vote. I guess y'all wanted to see Tali's real face and to sort of see that in the romance. But in the lead with 32% of your vote, Liara. So it actually looks like Liara seems to be the most popular romance option in the Mass Effect trilogy, which is cool to see, and that is the romance option I chose as well in my first playthrough. I think Liara's romance is really well handled. You really do get to see Liara grow and mature, and you get to see the impacts of everything on her. And obviously Ali Hillis, who voice acted her, did a phenomenal job with portraying Liara, and yeah, so I can see why that would be the most popular choice. So there are some of the choices that you guys made. I actually found making this video and researching and counting and adding up all your scores really interesting, and really enjoyed them. It's got me more excited for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which is coming out in May. As you guys know, I am working on my Mass Effect lore series at the moment, but they're going to take a bit of time to make because there's a lot of preparation that has to go into them, not just getting the footage, playing the games, recording the footage, but obviously researching, writing the scripts, recording and editing and so on. So this is just to sort of whet your appetite, shall we say, for the Mass Effect lore series that is going to come, and just to share these statistics with you guys. So let me know what you guys think of these in the comment section below. Do you agree with the popular choices and popular votes? If you didn't get to tell us about your Commander Shepard in the previous video 4 months ago, then please share that in the comment section below. Who is your Commander Shepard? Who are you going to play as in the Mass Effect Legendary Edition? Please share in the comment section below. Hope you guys are having a great week, of course. Take care, and as always, happy gaming. Bye guys.